This is the Creatures of the Night podcast, and I'm Chris.
And I'm Wendy.
Well, Wendy, we did finally finish the Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. I'm disappointed, though. I didn't realize that there was only 6 episodes. Did you know that?
No, that's bullshit.
That's what I said, too. We sat down Thursday night. We were watching them kind of like with dinner, like, you know, on the nights that we had the time to sit down and actually watch Unsolved Mysteries. And bam, we go on to play the next one, and it's actually playing the trailer for Unsolved Mysteries on Netflix. I'm like, what did you do? He's like, I don't know what I did. So my husband, he goes to hit play or whatever to look at the episodes, and he's like, oh, damn. Well, we watched them all. That's it.
That's like, what do they call them? Like mini-series or something like that? Or it's only like a really long movie.
Yeah, I was like, well, that sucks because I was really, I don't know, I felt like I was kind of missing out on something there, you know, Unsolved Mysteries-esque. You know, if you go back and you've watched the previous shows, you know, I was looking for some of the ones that were more of along the lines of my favorites. I'm not knocking any of the shows that they have out now. It's just that I felt like it was a hard stop with the 6th episode. And I'm like, wait a second, where's the rest? So yeah, bummer. There's only 6 episodes.
Sometimes they throw out just a few episodes because they're not really sure how the public is going to receive it. And then, I don't know, they could come back. You know what? This is semi off topic, but what was that show that we watched? It was a dude traveling and he went to like real, do you remember? Dark tourism.
Oh, Dark Tourism. Yeah, I love that.
I love that. I don't know how many episodes it was, but it was like a one-time thing. That's all you get. I don't know where that documentary guy went, what films he's making now or whatever, but I'm like, no, I need more macabre travel stories.
I loved it. That's totally a show that I could watch over and over again just because, it takes you to the dark places. You know, it's when you go to, I don't know, take a vacation somewhere and you want to be like, okay, I need to see this and this and this and this and this. And then when you leave, you're like, wait a second, you had what?
This whole time?
This whole time? Like, yeah, he took you to those really off the beaten path kind of tours. Like, clearly there are some that I wouldn't. Like, what was it, the Running with the Bulls or whatever it was that he did that were, you know, very dangerous kind of things. I would love to do the Chernobyl one, but, you know, maybe with a radiation suit. But yeah, that was a good one, Wendy. That's another, you're right. We're missing that. We need more of.
Yeah, I think it was more than 6 episodes, but it's like they did it. I liked it.
Yeah.
I heard of other people liking it. And it's like they just don't make any more. It's like, how dare you?
How dare you get me hooked and then take it away from me?
Yes, I loved everything about it.
Yeah. So that's Unsolved Mysteries for you. It's only 6 episodes. So we were sitting there. We had dinner plates ready to go. So what are we going to do? He starts flipping around. He's like, well, let's find something else. He's like, how do you feel about this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm not really feeling it. Honestly, it's Thursday night and I've got a podcast to write. So I don't really want to get sucked into something.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, find something that you want to watch and I'll probably bail, you know, just because I got stuff to do. He lands on The Disaster Artist. Have you seen that? It's a movie.
I have seen it.
Yeah. You've seen it? So he's like, oh, I've been wanting to see this. And I don't know if they just put it on Netflix. You know, Brandon gets all the updates whenever they put stuff on Netflix. I don't know. I've heard of it. I remember when it came out and they were like pushing out like the ads and stuff for it. And I thought it looked cool. But again, this is Thursday night. I'm not looking to get sucked into a movie. So my husband's like, well, I kind of need to go to the store anyways. Let's put it on for 15 minutes, see if we want to see this. And we'll probably just, you know, whatever, do our own thing. I'm like, yep. That sounds like me anyways. I was already, like I said, not looking for a movie, but he starts it up and right away I'm totally sucked in. We watched the whole movie all the way through.
For one thing, who in their right mind puts a movie on when they don't want to really watch TV? That's what they made HGTV for and Food Network and stuff. You watch 15 minutes of those things.
Yeah.
You know, you see one of the houses on House Hunter. You watch one round of Chop and then you're like, okay, I'm good. I'll watch the entree and the dessert one later. It doesn't matter.
No kidding.
You don't start a fucking movie just hoping it will be bad.
That's Brandon's deal. He's not really big into sitcoms or things like that. Not even really so much into docuseries. I mean, he has come around to a few of them, but he's more a movie guy. Mm-hmm. And with him, the weirder, the more off the wall kind of, that's his jam. So he was wanting to see it. Basically, if I wasn't into it, he was going to go do his thing and then watch the rest of it without me because he would have felt like it was a waste of my time. That's what I mean.
Right. No, I get it. And Carl's always trying to pick movies too. I immediately shut that shit down.
Yeah. yeah.
I don't have that kind of time.
I don't have time for this. Exactly. So I didn't have time for this, but I could not stop watching this movie. I'm not saying that it's the best movie ever, but it was really good. Wendy, you've already seen it, but for anybody who hasn't, James Franco's in the movie. He plays this mysterious millionaire, Tommy Wiseau. The guy's got this crazy accent that nobody can nail down, and he never tells anybody where he's really from or his age, and he's super eccentric and weird. And like, I was just head over heels in love with this character. I'm like, this is great. And as it turns out, the movie, The Disaster Artist, is based on the making of a cult classic movie called The Room, which was widely deemed the worst movie ever made. Which was another reason, like, you know, I'm trying to start watching this and Brandon's kind of telling me about it. I'm like, oh, actually, that does sound interesting. I had no idea, though. I'd never seen The Room. I'd never even heard of it before I watched The Disaster Artist. But yeah, so it became like this unintentional comedic masterpiece. And it apparently cost Tommy Wiseau $6 million of his own money to produce it. And then it only made like $1,800 on opening day. Damn, dude. But the dude was apparently loaded. So it wasn't about the money. It was just about having this movie of his own.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if he got paid for them making The Disaster Artist.
Oh, I think he's getting some kind of royalties or, you know, something like that. I mean, they not only use his likeness, but James Franco actually worked with Tommy Wiseau to like nail down the whole like accent and the eccentric, you know, ness of that character.
Yeah.
And Tommy Wiseau actually said, if anybody ever does a movie about me, only Johnny Depp or James Franco can play me. So, because the guy's so bananas, he already has it in his mind, like what he wants to do. And I say bananas in a good way, because I really, like, after I watched this movie, then my husband, he has to go on IMDb the whole thing. And then we're watching the honest trailer of The Room and, you know, like everything since then. Like I even fell asleep thinking about this whole, like it blew up in my mind. Like I loved the whole thing. All the Franco brothers are in it, James, Tom, and Dave. And so is James Franco's best friend, Seth Rogen. But you'll see Bob Odenkirk for a minute and Bryan Cranston. There's actually a bunch of big names in the movie. But for me, seeing Zac Efron as the big scary thug in the movie was like the best. I always come across Zac Efron memes and like, this is how I actually know who he is. Not High School Musical, not any of this man's movies. The memes. That's how I know who he is. I've put up a couple of them on the Spirit Emporium, like the witch meme. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like, where'd all your money go? And it's like witch jars, witch books, spells. And he's just like doing the, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I think that's from his like High School Musical stuff.
It is. And I was, like I said, going across my memes list. And there's another one out there where it's like, you know, what level of degree do I need to be Zac Efron's oil spraying girl? And it's just this woman who's just spraying him down with oil. I'm like, that's awesome. But one of my favorites, and I'm switching my background now for Wendy. It's this one right here. It's a picture of Seth Rogen standing next to Zac Efron. And like the meme itself says something about how I feel standing next to my hot BFF. So I'm going to leave that as my background.
Oh my God, that'll be very distracting. I don't know which one to look at.
I know.
Tasty.
So good times. I enjoyed that movie. And, you know, anytime Seth Rogen is involved in anything, like it's just immediately like, oh my God, I love him so much. He's super hilarious. So I really like the movie is what I'm trying to tell you. And if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it. I think the movie's been out now for like 4 years, maybe longer. I don't remember. But yeah, check it out.
Yeah, it's really funny.
So I unfortunately don't have any memes to intro my story, and that's probably for the best. I decided to tell you all about a moment in history that will never be forgotten due to the extreme nature of the incident. So, Wendy, what do you know about Duralumin?
Whoa, I know nothing. I've never heard of that.
All right, prepare to be schooled. Duralumin was the trade name given to one of the earliest types of age-hardened aluminum alloys, though its use as a trade name is now obsolete. The term mainly refers to aluminum copper alloys. You've heard of those, though.
Sure, yeah.
So
I research alloys all the time.
All the time? Duh.
You know how into them I am.
So Duralumin was developed by the German metallurgist Alfred Wilm. In 1903, Wilm discovered that after quenching an aluminum alloy containing 4% copper, that it would slowly harden when left at room temperature over a period of several days. This material would become prominently used in the frames of rigid airships, or zeppelins, eventually including all of those of the great airship era from the 1920s and the 1930s. The British-built R-100, the German passenger LZ-127 Graf Zeppelin, LZ-130 Graf Zeppelin II, and U.S. Navy airships USS Los Angeles, USS Akron, and the USS Macon. As with the others, duralumin was used in Britain's R-101 hydrogen airship. Now, tragically, the R-101 crashed in France during its maiden overseas voyage in 1930. This incident claimed the lives of 48 of the 54 people on board. The R-101's crash effectively ended British airship development and was one of the worst airship accidents of the 30s. Now, parts of the R-101 were eventually salvaged along with all that precious duralumin that I was just telling you about. And in 1931, Germany-based Luftschiffbau Zeppelin Company, or LZ for short, used those parts in their manufacturing of the LZ-129, the Hindenburg.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Have you heard of that? That's what I was going to say. I mean, I can go on and on about duralumin, but let's go ahead and wrap this up, right? So my story is, in fact, on the Hindenburg disaster. So in its 1936 flight season, the Hindenburg finished 17 round-trip crossings of the ocean and even set a new record that July by flying across the Atlantic and back in just 5 days. At the time, this was the fastest double crossing of the Atlantic to ever have been carried out. In 1937, the Hindenburg opened up with yet another successful season. It had completed a single round-trip passage to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, in March, and had already been booked for 10 round trips between Europe and the U.S. And let me just tell you, this was no cheap flight. So this was during the recession, and ticket prices were roughly $450 then. So think like between $5,000 and $6,000 in today's money. Right.
But I mean, at the time, what were your other options? To take a boat that took you like a month or something, right?
No, I mean, boats definitely would take a lot longer. Yeah, this was supposed to be the fastest way to travel, right? Using the rigid airship. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, if you had to get to Graham's pretty quickly, then I guess you just plop down that $450 back then and you go for it. And you're off to see Graham's. So anyways, American Airlines also wanted a piece of that sweet airship action. So they had contracted with the operators of the Hindenburg to begin shuttling its passengers from Lakehurst to Newark in order to catch connecting flights. Now, I'm sure this was no $450 price tag. I'm thinking that this was more of the cruise-like experience price tag, that $450 part. But when has an airline ever not jumped at the opportunity to make a few extra bucks?
Oh my
Come
God.
on. Baggage fees, seat upgrades.
Yeah, no, just choosing your fucking seat.
No, exactly. That is so true. Now it's like you can have this bunk ass seat for $10, or you can have the better bunk ass seat for $15.
But if you don't choose it, they will put you in the middle seat every single time. So you know every single person sitting in the middle seat, they were some cheap asses like me. That's me.
Like me.
I will
That's
always
me.
be in the middle. Look for me, everyone.
Right. Say hi.
Right? No matter if there were window seats or aisle seats available. They're like, no, $24 if you want that window seat.
Damn, I don't need it. I'm going to put my earbuds in and pretend that everyone else doesn't exist anyways. I don't like the idea of even being on a plane. I don't like any of it. I mean, it's great that I get from, one place to the next super fast, but the whole flying part, I'm not so much interested. I'll take the middle seat because I feel more secure.
You could grab onto these people for it.
Come on, Zach and Seth. Keep me company here. What a fucking flight that would be.
Right.
So aside from having strong headwinds, which ultimately slowed the ship's progress, the Atlantic crossing of the Hindenburg was said to have been pretty much unremarkable. All until the airship attempted an early evening landing at Lakehurst on May 6th. Although it only carried half of its capacity of passengers and crewmen for the accident flight, the Hindenburg was already fully booked for its return flight. The airship was hours behind schedule when it passed over Boston on the morning of May 6th, and its landing at Lakehurst was expected to be further delayed because of afternoon thunderstorms. After passing over the field at 4 p.m., Captain Pruss took passengers on a tour over the seasides of New Jersey while waiting for the weather to clear. He was finally notified at 6:22 p.m. that the storms had passed, and Pruss directed the airship back to Lakehurst to make its landing almost half a day late. At 7:25 p.m., the Hindenburg caught fire and quickly became engulfed in flames. There were several witnesses on the ground that gave varying reports, which made it substantially difficult for the authorities to determine where the fire had actually started. But inside the airship, helmsman Helmut Lau, who had been stationed in the lower fin, testified that he heard a muffled detonation and looked up to see a bright reflection on the front bulkhead of gas cell 4, which suddenly disappeared by the heat. So, Wendy, what do you know about gas cells?
Well, as much as I know about aluminum.
All right. So blimps, zeppelins, and hot air balloons are all types of lighter than air airships. They are kept aloft through a lifting gas such as helium, hydrogen, or hot air. Gas cells allow them to maintain their shape without deflating. These gas cells are actually made of gelatinized cotton and were designed to be filled with helium, which was known to be much safer than hydrogen because it was non-flammable, of course. Now, the Hindenburg was actually intended to be operated with helium, but the U.S. had prohibited the export of helium to any foreign nation. So hydrogen it was. And there were 16 gas cells filled with hydrogen, keeping the Hindenburg aloft.
Like a floating
bomb
fire trap.
Yeah, it pretty much was.
Which, I mean, I guess all planes kind of are.
Oh, don't bring planes into this.
But not exactly are the same. You know, I have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, you're right.
You just expect in a plane, one part will blow up, but, you know, maybe you'll get lucky and you'll fly away in that seat or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. They have all kinds of security precautions on board. They tell you about it when you get on there, right? They're like, mask comes down, put that shit on your face. Make sure your brother and sister next to you are all taken care of. We got rafts. They're under the seat. You know, if we go into the water, you'll be safe. Just look out for sharks, that sort of thing. But I don't think they were doing that sort of safety speech on the Hindenburg. As a matter of fact, they had a smoking room on the Hindenburg. So they were probably like, you know, everyone, if you need to light up, you go into this one special room over here.
Right next to the hydrogen gas outside, I'm sure. Right. I mean, because it's all over the place.
It was all over the place. Yeah, exactly. That's, I mean, I need a cigarette now knowing that. But I think I would wait to light up until I got off that 5-day-long airship, just for safety precautions anyways. So as other gas cells started to catch fire, the fire spread more to the starboard side of the ship, which began to drop rapidly. The flames quickly spread forward first, which also consumed cell 1 through cell 9, causing the rear end of the structure to implode. Almost instantly, 2 tanks, which contained either water or fuel, burst out of the hull. Buoyancy was lost on the stern of the ship, and the bow lurched upwards while the ship's back broke. As the tail of the Hindenburg crashed into the ground, a burst of flames came out of the nose, killing 9 of the 12 crew members in the bow. The airship's gondola wheel touched the ground, causing the bow to bounce up slightly as one final gas cell burned away. At this point, most of the fabric on the hull had also diminished, and the bow finally crashed to the ground. Although the hydrogen had finished burning, the Hindenburg's diesel fuel continued to burn for several more hours.
Oh, yeah. I think that shit burns for like a really long time. That's like dinosaur bones there.
Yeah, right? Here, and just for reference, there it is up in the air.
I can't imagine. When you're in that little thing down at the bottom.
Yep.
Why they thought this was like a good design, I don't really know. But, and then you look up and see that. And I'm sorry, but everybody with the background changes that we can do now with Skype and stuff. So Chris is showing me a picture of the actual explosion. Just the whole fucking thing is on fire.
Yeah, the back end of the airship is up there in flames in the picture that I just sent to Wendy. And I'm going to flip to another picture here just so that you can see. But that's it after it burned out on the ground.
It's just like nothing. There's this little tiny cage there.
Yeah, that sucker, it got wiped out.
It's nothing but like canvas. It's not, I don't know that it's canvas, but you know what I mean? It's just some kind of material, a thin frame, and a whole bunch of flammable gas air.
Yeah, it is. But I thought it was really interesting to note that the majority of the ship had been in this situation before, and here it is again, because they pulled it off of R101, and now it's in the Hindenburg, and boom. It's like there it is again. So
it's just like that was not just like, but that other plane story that you did.
Yeah.
It crashed and they were like, ooh, it's spare parts.
Spare parts. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That reminded me a lot of this, only that I didn't hear anything about ghosts on the Hindenburg when the Hindenburg was afloat. I mean, they had a couple of days to be on there, so I think that they might have seen them. There were a lot of survivors too, so I don't know. I guess maybe whatever happened to the R-101, maybe those people were resting in peace because there were no ghost reports on the Hindenburg. And the time that it took from the first signs of disaster to the bow crashing to the ground is said to have all happened within 40 seconds.
Oh my God. This whole time you're telling the story and I'm like, it's like you're explaining it in details and it takes you minutes to tell the story. Yeah. And I imagine it happened so fast, but not 40 seconds. That's insane. They didn't have time to look up and back.
Nope. Yeah, they really didn't. The guys that were there that actually took pictures of this, they were just enthralled with the Zeppelin itself coming in. They were just there, like news film was there just to take video of it. Here it is. It's this great airship. It's one of the largest ones. It's blah, blah, blah. So just imagine all these people are there just kind of watching it roll in when boom, this shit just unfolds in front of their eyes.
No, that's crazy.
It's crazy. And yeah, all just in a matter of seconds. Not only was the wind blowing the fire towards the starboard side, but the ship had also rolled slightly to starboard as it settled to the ground, eliminating any chance of escape for the passengers on that side. To make matters worse, if they weren't already pretty grim, the sliding door leading from the starboard passenger area to the central foyer of the gangway stairs jammed shut during the crash, further trapping those passengers on the starboard side. In total, 13 of the 36 passengers and 22 of the 61 crew had died. Most survivors had received severe burns, while 6 additional crew members, 3 passengers, and Alan Hageman, who was on the ground at the time of the crash, all died in the following hours or days, mostly as a consequence of the burns. While the landing had previously drawn the attention of several news crews and other spectators to be on site for this disaster, nobody actually captured footage or photographic evidence from the moment the fire actually started. And this has greatly hindered investigators' ability to confirm how the fire began in the first place.
That smoking room. No.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. I was like, as soon as I found that out, I'm like, come on, guys. I think we know. No, seriously? But even now, scientists are still not sure about what set the Hindenburg ablaze. According to a 1937 investigation, the trouble started when some of the ship's hydrogen leaked into the electrically charged atmosphere. At some point, the electrostatic discharge ignited the gas, dooming the Zeppelin. But conflicting eyewitness accounts and incomplete camera footage have only deepened the mystery. This disaster became the main focus of the international media and ultimately marked the end of the use of rigid airships in commercial transportation. The actual site of the Hindenburg crash at the Lakehurst Naval Air Station is marked with a chain outline pad and a bronze plaque. This memorial was dedicated on May 6, 1987, on the 50th anniversary of the disaster. Not far away, Hangar 1 is within view of the crash site. This massive hangar that would have housed the 804-foot-long Hindenburg airship had it not burned. 804 foot? Shit. It's huge.
Here in Tucson, we have the Pima Air and Space Museum. It's like actually the largest air and space museum in the world, in the country or whatever.
Well, brag about it.
It's got all these planes and it's just kind of impressive to see their size. There's this one plane that's all like bubbled, almost like one of these airships, but not quite because it is a plane. They use it for transportation. The front of the plane opened up and they loaded shit into this giant bubble. And
I've seen that.
Yeah, it's just crazy the size of it. So I couldn't imagine this would be larger, even than that.
I bet that is really badass to see. And this is like in a museum where they have all these planes. Is there a hangar?
Oh, well, so they have planes in hangars throughout their property, but then this one's outside. So they have some that are outside, the really big ones.
Yeah. You could tour all of them? You could go in them and
No. That is a bummer. You can go in a few of them, actually, that are in the hangars, but none of the ones out on the grounds you can go in. They have an air show every year that's actually free, so that's pretty cool.
That is cool. And I do miss the air shows. You know, when we lived close to base, we would get to see them all the time. The Blue Angels don't get to see that anymore.
The Millington Air Show, they would have a bunch of planes that you can go up in and tour. So it was done really well. But I do remember that they charged. And we were really shocked that the Tucson one doesn't. But the first year that we ever went, there were people outside with like protesting signs. They were protesting the air show because they said it promoted murder, because it promotes war time, I guess, or whatever.
I see.
We're like, we just want to see some fucking cool planes.
Yeah, do that thing where you like draw stuff in the clouds.
Right. We just want to see them twirl around. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, you know, there's always someone there to ruin the fun.
I'm Karen around. Yep.
So this hangar, which was Hangar 1, I thought was pretty sweet too. It was built in 1921 with the intention of accommodating hydrogen-filled Zeppelins as safely as possible. Check this out. Its floor was spark-proof.
Okay, cool.
I need one of those. Because when I'm sliding through there trying to do my dinner, they had electrical systems and lighting that were explosion-proof. That's a nice feature.
Yeah.
It was apparently one of the oldest surviving structures associated with that period's development of lighter-than-air flight crafts. So when the Hindenburg crashed at Lakehurst in 1937, Hangar 1 was quickly transformed into a makeshift hospital and a morgue for those victims. Many of the people who still work at the Lakehurst station believe that the spirits of those people who were killed on that tragic day do in fact still linger here. The old hospital is now a clinic, and some of the workers have reported seeing and hearing things that cannot be explained. They talk about hearing strange footsteps, doors rattling, and loud, unexplained crashes. There have also been sightings of lights flashing on and off for no apparent reason. Peggy Weber, a clinic employee, described her experience saying that she was in the dental clinic on the second floor when she saw an apparition float past her.
Nope. No. I'm going to take a sick day today.
I know. I could just imagine this. This is so funny, like hearing it. She said she was standing there chatting with another one of the clinic coworkers when she just kind of saw this thing float past her, and she was startled. She's like, holy shit, you know, and she's telling her buddy or whoever she's talking to. He turns around. There's nobody there. It disappears. So they immediately start checking all the rooms, like who's playing with us, you know, who's pulling a prank on us, whatever. They couldn't find anything. So Peggy was a little freaked out. And I'd hate to have to admit that to my boss. So I was just standing there chatting. But it was about work stuff. I'm promising you, it was work related.
Like bitching about work. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Another one of the staff members was in the stairwell who saw a person coming up behind her. She got a little freaked out and she sped up and quickly got to the door, like the stairwell door. But all of a sudden the door was jammed. It's not jammed. It's never locked, but it wouldn't open. So now she's kind of panicking. There's something coming up behind her and she can't get in. So like, you know, she's kind of in the middle of having a panic attack. Like, what the hell's happening? The figure approached her and she could hear it coming up the stairs. And just before it reached her, it disappeared.
Oh my God. And she had to go home and change her pants.
I was just going to say, and she pissed her pants. Yeah, so she was pretty much scared. She didn't have an explanation for what had just happened. She finally got out of the stairwell and, went home. Poor girl. Another worker who was wrapping up one night said that he was alone. He suddenly heard some very loud crashes, and he decided to go and see what had happened. When he went to the area in the clinic where the sound came from, he found a large pamphlet rack that had fallen over, and all the pamphlets were, I keep wanting to say pamphlets. It's not pamphlet. There's no P there. Pancakes. All the pancakes were everywhere. Not this time. It was pamphlets, and they were scattered all across the floor. And look, this dude was irritated. I can totally see that. He's already at work late, probably because his coworker's out, and he's there having to pull double duty. So I get it. Instead of picking all this shit up, he shouts out loud that he didn't make the mess, so he wasn't going to clean it up. And then he also says that whoever you are, you better clean up this mess. And then he goes home. I love his attitude.
Oh, yeah. I'm totally proud of him.
Me too. The next morning, the rack, the pamphlets, all of it was back up. Like nobody touched it. Nobody was there. He left. He locked up. He was the first one in the next day. He's like, what the shit? So back at the hangar, where there are reports of voices heard in other languages, many tend to think it's German. There are also reports of mysterious music, which is heard coming from rooms on the second floor of the hangar. Although the music mysteriously stops as you enter into the rooms that you think the music is coming from is what I mean. Also, many workers have reported seeing shadows of figures peering out from the catwalks. They'll hear footsteps too, but no person is actually ever there. Henry Applegate, a retired fire chief, said that the building seems to create its own weather conditions. He describes seeing a foggy, like white mist about 3 to 4 feet off the ground one night, and behind it, he saw shadows of 2 heads bobbing up and down, as if they were walking. Again, he says he was the only one in the building that night. He checked, and he also padlocked the building, and immediately he left. Everyone is like, I saw enough. Then there was another story that comes from a night watchman who said that he heard a man calling his name. The man approached him and passed right through him. Other people talk about seeing a mysterious naval officer who walks around Hangar 1, while others say they have seen an airman wearing vintage gear from the 1930s.
Well, so those would be separate from the Hindenburg situation, right? Because they wouldn't have had military people on the flight, would they? Because it was like a commercial thing, right?
Yeah. So I think that what they're saying is that it looks like they're wearing the uniforms that would have been worn, as like captains of those airships at the time.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that would be it. But I mean, I was just going to say, the base itself could have some energy there from the people that once like dedicated their whole lives to, their careers. Yeah.
Yes, I would imagine so. It's a very old base. It's had a lot of history. So yeah. But okay, so this one I liked so much. I watched this video on YouTube. It's from a poster by the name of Valpro99. This was so good. Really, I was so impressed with his video. The man described some strange encounters at the hangar, including a feeling of having passed through spider webs. Though there were no spider webs, and this was during the day, so you would think that they'd be able to see them if there were any, and there's no spider webs, none. And I did read that this is mentioned over and over as a common experience in the hangar of feeling the spider webs.
That's really cool, because for people that, you just happened upon this episode and you've never heard our other episodes, Chris had the same kind of experience at the S.K. Pierce house of feeling like she was kind of walking through spider webs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so true. That is so true. Because I was like, what is on my face? And I was trying to grab it off of my face. He does the exact same thing. He's trying to pinch it off his face and stuff. And there's nothing there. And I do like him because I feel like he's a little bit on the paranormal side of things, this guy. But I feel like he works there too, because you can see a little bit of his collar and it's military grade, issued outfit. So I think he was just doing his day thing. And he's just let me see what I can get. And he's walking through cobwebs and stuff. And just to note, the ceilings there are over 200 feet high. So even if it was a spider web, they're not that into Pilates that I know, that they're I gotta get all of my crunches in today. And coming all the way down from 200 feet to make that web just to get in that man's face. I don't think so.
No, if that is a spider, I don't want to ever find that spider.
No way. He's gonna have some spider legs of fire. And he also caught a very interesting sound. He used a digital audio recorder and captured what the Historical Society confirmed was the alarm that would go off to notify everyone that the hydrogen was being pumped into the airships so that everyone could take the proper precautions. Now, he didn't hear it with his own ears. Otherwise, he would have reacted to it. He plays the recording on YouTube, and clearly nobody's reacting to it. They're all just talking. They're just blah, 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 talking. And you can hear this, siren, this something going on. To me, it sounded a lot like a vacuum cleaner, that sort of noise.
Yeah.
But there's no carpet there. Remember, this place was built so that nothing could produce a fire inside the hangar. So, nobody's out there vacuuming shit. I'll post a link to his video so you can hear the alarm noise that he captured. Again, I love the video. It was only 5 minutes, maybe almost 6, 5.5 minutes or something like that. And like I said earlier, I think that he, might have been working there at the time. I don't know if he still is. I didn't watch any of his other videos to see what else he's up to these days, but that's a good one. I'll share it. Now, on to the area where the memorial is now located, which marks the spot where the Hindenburg came down. People have reported hearing the voices of men frantically shouting, and I quote, away the lines, and she's a fire.
Ugh.
So there's really a lot going on here, and that's just because there's so much history, but not so much in the way of paranormal investigations. That's because this is owned by the Air Force, so good luck getting authorization to investigate it. And if you do get authorization somehow to investigate this place, remember, it's huge. You've got the clinic, Hangar 1, and the memorial, which happens to be outside. So for this story, I really only have those amazing personal encounters, unless you want to know what ghost hunters found, because they got to lock the place down. And we're talking Amy Bruni era.
Really? Wow. They let them have like the whole Air Force Base or just the memorial area?
They let them have Hangar 1, the clinic, and the memorial area.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they go driving around on the base too. Like, it almost looks like they're having like a little midnight fun cruise. Like, I think maybe they were falling asleep, so they're like, we got to liven things up. There's nobody out there, man. It's locked down for them. They had the whole place to themselves. So for great visual of this location, definitely check out Ghost Hunters Season 5, Episode 25. Amy Bruni and Chris Williams experienced some pretty amazing things. They saw the lights flashing on and off and were unable to find an explanation for it. You know, that's one of the commonly reported things. And while inside the clinic, they captured the sound of a man deeply sighing. They say it sounds like a man clearing his throat. You can hear it. It's like they're both standing side by side, and it's a man. To me, he's like, ugh. After they hear this, they immediately think that they're not like physically alone. Like, they think that there's another human being in the building. So they start investigating every square inch of this place and find no signs of life. Both Amy and Chris were a little on edge after that and frightened. And Chris even stated that she had never felt that frightened while on an investigation. Now, the voice that was captured was right next to her. So it was like, bam, right in her face, too. So I'm sure she was a little on edge.
Well, when it's that loud, too, and you're like, that has to be a real person.
Yes.
Then it's heightened because you're like, we supposed to have this place on lockdown. Who the hell is that? You know?
Exactly.
Who snuck in here? So you're more scared of the living, and you're concerned that somebody's like there that you're just not aware of. And then a real person's watching you that could really physically hurt you. Where I know plenty of people say that they've been, attacked by spirits and stuff like that. I think you take that a little less serious until it actually happens to you type thing. Just like most people don't believe in ghosts until they actually see one. Most people won't believe that they could physically hurt them until they have.
Yeah.
But humans can. So you hear something that loud and you're like, someone's here that's not announcing themselves. You're more scared.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely more terrified of the living. Every time Wendy and I would go to graveyards to investigate, and I'm like, we're fine. It seems dark. It seems eerie. Cool. And then somebody is walking down the road. I'm like, holy shit, hide. No. I don't want them to see that we're out here. I don't want to deal with them. No. None of that. I'm here to investigate, the ones that previously lived, not the ones that are still living. I don't want to have anything to do with that. So, yes, she could have been freaked out because, A, it could have been a person. They went to look for a person. They found no person. Or B, because holy shit, that was like a legit spirit basically right in my ear. And she said it felt like a man was clearing his throat. But to me, it was like it's loud. It is a loud, like both of them are like, what the hell was that? They also capture an EVP, a voice in English, after Chris says that she can't even imagine what it must have been like going through this. The voice clearly says very hard.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. And again, it was Chris. Like, both of these things were seeming to communicate with her. So then we have Dustin Perry. He was the one with the crazy spiked hair. He still investigates the ghosts, but I don't know if he's on any shows these days. But honestly, I haven't watched any paranormal shows that have, how the ghost hunters have kind of split off and done their own, different shows.
Too much now. Too much going on. It's really hard to keep up with all of that.
So he might be doing that. I just don't know. I don't really know what his dig is these days. But he was here during this time. He experienced the cobwebs. He and Britt, who was another gentleman on the show back in the day, they're just randomly talking. And I think they were even like moving from one part to the next. Like they were just kind of bullshitting, right? And then all of a sudden, as they're moving through, Dustin stops and he's like, well, what the hell? And you can see him like pinching at his face and like wiping. He's like, I'm in cobwebs. And he's like, whoa, he stops Britt all of a sudden. He's like, Britt, come here and look and see. Do you see cobwebs on me? And Britt's all up in his hair with his flashlight. He's like, no, man, there's nothing on you. So he got to feel the cobwebs. He immediately, I think he might be a little bit more intimidated by spiders than anything, just how he reacted. Like, oh! Like how I would have reacted. But there were no webs again. So now, aside from the Hindenburg disaster, which took place just outside of Hangar 1, there are also 2 other rigid aircrafts that left Hangar 1 and never returned. Many additional loss of lives occurred in those tragedies, and another which happened in Lakehurst, which is basically on the doorstep of the Hindenburg disaster. So many do think that there is a mix of spirits, those that are residual energies and those that belong to lost souls from all of these different accidents, or possibly people that actually enjoyed their time there.
Obviously not that guy that had a huge sigh.
No, not him. Not him at all. He's probably like, oh, geez, someone's here up late again at night. When am I ever just going to get my chance to roam these halls like I want to?
What if it's like that's his own personal hell? Like in real life, he was like a shithead guy, didn't pay his child support, was ugly to everybody, but he worked at the clinic. And so when he died, his own personal hell is being stuck there every day.
Well, my own personal hell would be stuck in the afterlife at work.
Right.
So, I mean, and I don't think I'm a bad person, but, that's where I end up being. I mean, I'm going to haunt the shit out of it. You're going to hear more than just a few sighs here and there. That's for sure. Now, I have a few more personal experiences that I found, which also help further validate the claims. This one came from a follow-up post to Weird New Jersey, where Weird New Jersey was actually laying out a lot of these claims that I read to you earlier. Now, the person that posted this goes by the name of Yankee Oscar. He says, I'm an air traffic controller at Lakehurst Tower. We always get calls from concerned civilians and local police because people swear that they are seeing dark triangles or large, round crafts that are completely silent. Truth is, the triangles they're looking at are really C-17s conducting night vision ops with all their collision landing configuration lights turned off. Those huge glowing spheres are actually test airships or blimps that have an internal light that, when lit up, makes the whole airship appear to glow a dull white. Now, that being said, there are times we see things in the tower that we cannot explain and do not match up with our radar. But when it's your job to watch the sky all night, you have to get used to seeing weird things. On another note, the base is old as the hills and haunted as hell.
You just threw that in there.
Yeah. P.S. Yes.
P.S. Weird shit is going on, but I can tell you about those two things.
Yeah, right? I love how he starts off with this. It's all men in black bullshit, you guys. Whatever you're seeing in the skies, it's not true. Oh, yeah, but that tower, haunted as fuck. Let me, hold on. Let's have a sit down. Grab you a glass of wine, because I got some stories for you. I want Yankee Oscar, please listen to this podcast.
I know. I was about to say, he needs to be on this podcast with us.
I would love to hear what that man or girl has to say. Oscar, I guess it could be either way. Maybe that's your dog's name, right? So another personal story comes from the book Lakehurst Barons, Blimps, and Barons by Eric.
Sorry. Terrible title.
Well, it's a play because it's Barons, I think, like wasteland.
Yeah.
And then Barons, like, twisting of the mustache, the ones that ply the bombers, Barons. You know what I'm saying?
No, I did not know that.
Like the Red Baron, like the pizza that you...
Oh, okay, yeah. Now I get it.
And then blimps. We know what those are.
So
this is by Eric San Juan, and he says that many of the burn victims that had been taken to a temporary medical center, which had been set up in a nearby hangar, which was hangar number 1, is now on the National Register of Historic Places. One lonely evening, a maintenance man who remained anonymous was working the corridors lining the sides of the hangar. Now, he forgot something in the hangar and was about to go retrieve it when suddenly he felt a hand on his shoulder. He said that he felt its warmth coursing through him, but when he turned to see who was there was nobody there. Whatever he had forgotten could wait. He wasn't staying in there any longer, and he left very quickly. But just as he passed through the threshold of the door between the hangar and the connecting offices, the warmth on his shoulder finally disappeared. So it was with him that whole time, and he was alone again at that moment. He says he doesn't know what's out there, and he doesn't want to know either. That's why these ghosts they're like, nobody will listen to me. Maybe this guy, maybe if I like put my hand on his shoulder, he'll be like, I'm here with you, buddy. I'm here. No, he went off running and screaming. Nope to that shit. Retired airman Nicholas Rakonska, who actually saw the Hindenburg fly overhead on the day of the disaster when he was 5 years old.
Oh.
He feels like the hangar's haunted too. Not only were bodies from the disaster brought inside the hangar, not only did some die within, but the disaster itself happened just outside its doors. A new training facility had opened in the offices on the far side of the hangar, and while working late one evening, he heard music and voices in the distance. Thinking that it was a celebration to welcome the new class, he decided to stop in. He could hear the party from behind the office door, and when he opened it, boom, all dead.
That motherfucker was sneaking in, trying to get some free snacks.
Wouldn't be. Then... I mean, it's going to crash that party. They saw him. They're like, oh, shit, here comes James. Or it's Nicholas, sorry.
When he opened the door, and he like, fuck.
I really wanted some cheese puffs. So yeah, this was the story that I was referring to earlier. He was the one that reported the music. He heard the music stopped, the voices stopped, everything stopped. When he opened up that door, he was totally alone in Hangar 1. So there are a lot of consistent stories that you'll find if you go and can visit the hangar. Nothing seems to be malicious here. I wish the base would open up for more investigations because it does seem like there are so many spirits here that want to communicate. Or, maybe they just need to get a message through. And until that happens, or until one of the base personnel take a personal interest in investigating it, the voices of those spirits, well, they might be quiet for a long, long time. The Hindenburg story had always fascinated me, and that's not because I was ever into history as a student. I've said that before. I really didn't dig history. Honestly, I think that if it was more geared towards me, like how it is now, I think I would have been like all about it, but it really wasn't as a child. So I just... history, whatever. But the reason why I was so into the Hindenburg was due to an album cover of which my dad had the official record of. As a teenager, I proudly owned that CD. This is none other than Led Zeppelin's album by the same name, Led Zeppelin. The album cover artwork, which had been chosen by Jimmy Page, and for anyone who doesn't know who he is, Page is the band's magician guitarist. The picture for the album was the black and white image of the burning Hindenburg airship photographed by Sam Shear in May 1937. The image was used because it actually refers to the origin of the band's name itself. When Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Keith Moon, John Entwistle, just all the famous guys hanging out one day, just having a beer, they were all sitting around discussing the idea of forming a group. Moon jokingly said it would probably go over like a lead balloon, and Entwistle replied, a Led Zeppelin. And the rest is history. There it is.
You didn't have this record when I was visiting, did you?
No, I've been picking them up left and right.
Wow, that's really neat how they came about their name.
I know, right? My dad was able to fill me in at least on that part of the history. And because I was a fan of Led Zeppelin, that always kind of stuck. But the rest of it, I had no idea. I got a record player for my 40th birthday. So what Wendy is referring to is when she came up to see me for my 40th birthday, I only had a handful of records. So it's July, and I think I buy a new record like every 2 weeks. So if you have any other personal stories that you would like to add to those that are being told by the Hindenburg Disaster site, Hangar 1, or the clinic, please share them with us. Write to us at creaturesofthenightparanormal@gmail.com and share your stories. We would love to add them as a follow-up episode one day. This week, we will post all the items that I mentioned, the links and the pics all related to this story. Just find us on Instagram as COTN_paranormal and on Facebook and Twitter as COTN Paranormal. And in case you're new here, we have a spiritual store. This is the Spirit Emporium, just Spirit Emporium, like ghosts. Like what we talk about. Not Spirits Emporium. I found out that if you go and search for that, you'll find some alcohol, maybe wine, good things. It's all good things. I'm not knocking it. It's just we are not that site.
No, we could totally partner with them if they'd like to support our cause.
Sponsor us.
Pay us in wine.
I was just going to say, we will try a few new wines for them and, also give them a plug while plugging ourselves. So please stop by our shop. That, again, is the Spirit Emporium. You can find us on Etsy. But if you're only into the podcast and not social media or buying things online, who's not?
What?
But just please hit that like and subscribe. And I don't know, share the show with a friend. That would be cool. I'd like that because sharing is caring. So please. That's all the plugging I've got for you.
When you say sharing is caring, you think of the Care Bears, right?
Or, all the time.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
all right.
all the time. Grumpy Care Bear was always my jam. Stormy, grumpy.
That was an awesome story. I didn't know anything really. I mean, everybody knows of the Hindenburg and that it crashed and it was a big deal, but I didn't know the history of it. I didn't know how this all came about and where it actually landed and who it affected or anything like that. I never thought about it being like connected to a haunting tale, you know?
I know. Isn't that crazy? And for me, it's the same situation. I knew that it was a German airship. So in my mind, this didn't even happen in the US. This happened in Germany, you know? So to rediscover, you know, this story and find out that this is actually in New Jersey. This isn't that far away from me, man. And the memorial is there and all of this haunted stuff is there. But it's on an Air Force base. So like the time that I got to tour the lighthouse that's here in Portsmouth, that's on an Air Force base, man, those guys have been whining and dining them for a long time to finally get permission to let us come in there that one night to investigate, because the Air Force they just don't do that sort of thing. They're not like, I don't know, into civilians coming aboard and, you know, poking around, prodding with their equipment and being all weird and shit. They got a job to do. You know, I can imagine being at my job and someone wanting to just come and hang out and...
Oh my God, no.
Get the hell out of here. I got shit to do. What are you doing? Creep? You know, but I am that creep. I want to go to this place. 100%.
It's like, sorry, you shouldn't have these cool things at your fucking workplace, okay?
Right? I mean, it'd be like working at a museum and someone being like, God, can you get out of here? I mean, this is my lunch break. I'm sorry that it's in, you know, the dinosaur fossil area. Jeez. I want to see the dinosaur fossils.
No, yeah. I don't think that they're huge fans of letting civilians in. We don't know how to act. I get it.
I don't know how to act. Especially, you know, when you get around this type of a historical spot and knowing that there's like a lot of haunted stories. I mean, you just look it up, man. This shit is coming out of the woodwork. You can't stop people from talking about it. It's so haunted from what I could gather.
Yeah. And then, you know, paranormal investigators, we come armed with audio recorders and videos and stuff. It's like never leave home type items. And I'm pretty sure the U.S. government's not cool with people videotaping their ass all the time.
So going back to that YouTuber that I was talking about, like, I think that he worked there. He had like the Sony digital recorder, like what we use to record our AVP sessions. That's why, like, you know, when I was looking up videos for this and I didn't see any more from him, I don't know if he got transferred. They saw his video and they're like, you're gone.
You can't send video from Sam Quinton, you know.
Yeah.
That's probably a no-no. I'm sure he got permission from somebody.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, he seemed like a cool dude. Hopefully one day we'll see some more from him, but I'm glad you liked it. Again, I always worry, especially when I do something in the States that, like, that's your story. You're going to be like, damn it, that was my whole story.
It's so far from my story. That's hilarious.
Okay, good.
But
good.
No, I mean, of course, I have those same reactions too, because you spend so much time and energy researching something that I think it's just the holy shit, she better not be doing this too. I have nothing. I've invested so much. I can't wait to talk about it and everything. So that's crazy. But yeah, no, this wouldn't even have crossed my mind yet as something to look into, but it's an incredibly interesting story. And then to take it back to Led Zeppelin, I mean, come on.
Yeah, girl.
That's
yes.
Rockstar right there.
Yes, that's Rockstar right there. Well, that's actually what, you know, kind of piqued my interest in the story in the first place. You know, I was just like, well, that was a disaster.
You're just looking at that album and you're like, I should fucking look into that.
Yeah, pretty much. What blew my mind was actually finding out that they took pieces of that Duralumin and other crap from the R101. Another disaster. They're like, we're going to salvage this and put it into another. And then boom. You know, like when I was showing you the picture, it's like, yeah, those parts have seen this whole thing before. It's like, damn it. I wanted to fly.
That's just expensive, I'm sure. So, I mean.
Yeah.
It's recycling. Don't judge them. Except
I don't.
It killed people in the long run. Anyways, so.
Well, the lesson learned here is that we don't do this shit anymore.
Yeah.
I was going to say, too, I think that the U.S. has relaxed its export regulations, too. I think we can trade helium now with other countries. That was the craziest.
Yeah, well, I don't know anything about it, but I know that they do have helium tanks at hospitals for whatever reason. I don't know what they're doing there. It's not for party balloons or, you know, get well balloons or anything. It's something else. I'm not a nurse, guys, but they do use helium in hospitals. So I don't know. Maybe it was just like they needed to conserve it for the health of our own country. I don't know.
I don't know why you don't know this, Wendy, but obviously everyone feels better when it sounds like you're getting bad news from a chipmunk. So the doctors take a hit of that helium They get their voices all crazy, then they go in there and they're like, I'm sorry, but it's bone cancer. That's really, really
like
dark.
Very Patch Adams. Yeah, I get it. That would be nice.
They're like, oh, okay, I can take it because you got the chipmunk voice going on. It's okay. But anyways, that is it. That's all I got. And before I crash and burn this podcast with any more dark references, I think I'm going to sign off on that one.
Sounds good. All right. Bye.
Bye.